In our last lesson, we had discussed writing the narrative composition, in which we had discussed the start sentence composition, and then we looked at some of those things you need to understand prior to attempting that particular type of question. So in this particular session, we're going to look at the prerequisites for writing the narrative composition. In other words, we're going to look at those things that you need to have for you to be able to write a narrative composition successfully. So what are those prerequisites? What are the essentials? What is this that you need to have for you to be able to succeed in the narrative composition? Let's look at them. Firstly, you need the ability to understand and interpret the question or the rubric in regard to the examiner's instructions. Remember, in our previous video, we had talked about what a rubric is. In this connection, we say that the rubric refers to the words that you've been given, out of which you build up a story. In simple terms, it is a sentence or a phrase that is given as a startup. So you have to understand and interpret that question properly for you to be able to understand the examiner's instructions. The coming video shall deal with this subject matter, where we will take you through how we interpret the question or the rubric. The other thing you need to have is sufficient competence to express yourself. Take note here, we're talking about reading English, so the point is you must have that vocabulary in your head to express yourself in different situations, depending on what kind of topic your story is dealing with. And that is why here the experiences that you have in your mind are very, very helpful, so that you don't choose a story which is wrestling with a topic and you do not have the vocabulary to express yourself. And when you talk about vocabulary, students should not imagine that it's the use of hard words or high-sounding glossary terms. Vocabulary are simply words that are pertaining to your particular topic. So you need to have a lot of those in your mind. For example, if the story is about an accident, then you need to know the language that we use when we are talking about accidents. What kind of language do we use to vividly paint a picture of an accident scene, and so forth. Next, you need to have the ability to script an original plot within the given time. Take note that in a composition writing exercise, you don't have all the time on earth. You might be given an hour or sometimes half an hour in which you're supposed to quickly script and write. And it's not just writing, you need to present something that can make your readers get glued to it, something that can captivate the interest of your readers. So you have to have that ability to script an original plot within the given time. But we're saying an original plot because here you have to come up with your own story. Again, in our next videos, we shall be talking about how do you script, how do you come up with a plot. Of course, the plot here, for the purposes of clarity, refers to how your story is going to develop from the introduction all the way to the conclusion, or sort of the climax. Then we need to also be able to efficiently manage time. You must manage time efficiently. You must be able to time yourself well. If it's the plot that you've already developed, you need to be able to write it within that given time. So you have to really, like now we have said in the first place, you have to interpret the question, so you don't have to take too much time interpreting the question or reading those instructions provided. You have to understand from the word go that time is not on your side. Then you must have a legible and attractive handwriting. Again, in the forthcoming videos, we're going to be looking at how to write legibly and attractively. Of course, we are not saying that the fact that your handwriting is very beautiful means that you're going to earn marks. No. You could have a very legible handwriting, but maybe what you've written is not so pleasant, it's not so much up to standard. So the legibility of your handwriting contributes to smoothening the whole process of communication between you and the person who is examining your work. In other words, the examiner is able to understand you if your handwriting is legible. In other words, you have to use conventional letter shapes. Don't come up with letter shapes which actually are very difficult to interpret. So your handwriting has got to be legible and also attractive. We will be talking about handwriting in the next videos. You must have sound grasp of the English language grammar. You don't want to tell a story and then you are rabbiting on and sort of may I say shrubbing, for lack of a better word. You're shrubbing in your written English. It might make the story be boring. You might be misunderstood. And somebody might feel like you're not prepared to express yourself, or you have not, because the composition objective is not just to entertain the reader. In fact, the examiner is not looking for entertainment. The examiner is looking to address one critical issue: assessing the competence of your written English. So you must have sound grammar. Again, we will have, in our other videos, we have posted the topic, the sentence. So be sure not to miss a bit of it, because we shall be looking at how to construct a sentence from scratch. We'll look at the beginner sentence construction. We'll also be looking at the common mistakes English learners of the English language make, especially when they are in high school or in the junior secondary school, for the case of the Kenyan curriculum. Next. That's all we need to learn about the prerequisites. So just a recap of what we've just talked about. So we have said you must have the ability to understand and interpret the rubric. Then you must have sufficient competence to express yourself. We have also said that you must be able to write an original script. You must have the ability to understand and interpret the questions through the rubric in regard to the examiner's instructions. And of course, efficient time management. And finally, the legible handwriting. It must be attractive so that at least someone can get interested to read your work. And lastly, we talked about sound grasp of the English language grammar. Bye for now. See you in the next